I grew up in a big family, 5 siblings, my parents, and my uncle. We've always been close and still are today. Our house was always filled with laughter and chaos and loud music and dancing. But then the summer of 2009 rolled around, the hardest year of my family's life. It was a normal day in July, or so we all thought. I woke up, went to get breakfast, went outside to play with our neighbors, and came home. See, a normal day. Boy, was I wrong. That day was the day that unknowingly to my family, that everything would start to change. My dad probably thought the same, until he ended up in the waiting room of a hospital.
Mr. Daniel Adami?
When he was seen by the doctor, they told him he just had gas, so they sent him home, and none of us thought anything of it. Mom had gotten hurt at work. She ended up needing surgery. Having no clue what was going on with Dad, she went ahead with it. Around 2 weeks later, he went back to the same hospital, and they admitted him. That's when they found liquid in his lungs. They took it out, and by August 2nd, he was released, just in time for my older sister's wedding. September came and passed, and he just dealt with the pain. In October, our Uncle Bill came from Texas, but nothing else notable happened until the first week of November. My dad went to the hospital again and was admitted. At this point, he said he'd be home for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving came, but little did we know that that would be the last holiday that we physically spent with him. We laughed and ate and spent time with our 3 cousins who were in town. I remember taking a picture, my cousins, siblings, and I also remember my dad and cousin Hannah had a whipped cream fight. At this point, we still had no idea how bad our dad's condition was. In December, he was still home. On the 5th, he found out my sister Nancy was pregnant. A week later, he was admitted to a different hospital. They told him they wouldn't release him until they knew what was wrong. Christmas came, and life in our house was never duller. We opened our presents, and I remember we spoke to him on the phone. The next day, December 26, 2009, we got the news that it was cancer. Then, New Year's passed, and it didn't feel like it was going to be a hopeful year. January 2010. On the 2nd, he was going to come home to pass. On the 7th, my mom got the call.
So you're not coming home?
Decided that he was going to go into hospice and be put into a medical coma. My whole heart felt like it dropped to my stomach. I remember walking into our living room, looking at the couch, sitting down, looking at the blank TV, and feeling like my heart was gonna stop. We all went to the hospice to say goodbye. I remember walking in and my dad asking my sister,
"How's the spawn?"
bye one last time and hug him. And before I left, my father gave me a frog-shaped flower pot with a bunch of colorful flowers in it. I still have it to this day. I forgot to take it with me when my older sister Frances took me and Danny to her house to spend the night. But thankfully, when I got home the next day, my frog was on the table, courtesy of my Uncle Bill. January 14th, around 8 in the morning, Mom got the call. Dad had died. My brother Zach was the only other licensed driver besides my uncle. And he took Nancy to the school to pick up me and Danny, while my mom and uncle went to the hospice. I remember sitting in my 4th grade classroom when my teacher asked me to come into the hallway.
Go ahead and come out in the hallway.
I got up and walked with her and saw Nancy standing there. My heart dropped, and I said, He's gone, isn't he? My sister opened her arms and hugged me as I cried. Then I grabbed my bag and we left. When we got home, it was too quiet. I felt like life shattered and like we would never be okay again. Sadly, this is only my part of the story. My mother lost the love of her life. My siblings and I lost our dad. And the world lost a goofy, lovable, hardworking friend to all, smart man who I will miss until the day that I die. I hope to make beautiful things in honor of him and make him proud. But it wasn't an entirely awful year, because on July 28th, my first niece Heather was born, who that year seemed like the hope that we all needed. But like I said before, this isn't only my story.
Daniel Bryan Adami, my dad. What can I say about him? I remember when I was in elementary school, he used to come eat lunch with me, and he was such a tall, buff guy, and all of the kids were scared of him. Well, except my best friend at the time. She knew he was a big, cuddly teddy bear. He honestly gave the best hugs, and I'm not a big hugger. He was such a dad, though, always with a dad joke for every occasion. I think he's where I got my sense of humor from, and my taste of music. He liked a little bit of everything. Rock, country, it didn't matter as long as the song spoke to him. He always pushed me to be better, to get out of my comfort zone, to try new things. We were really close, and I always knew I could talk to him about anything. Losing my dad was difficult for all those who knew him. For me, I miss our talks and our hugs the most.
My daddy was stubborn and funny and kind-hearted, and my first hero.
My dad was funny, strong, caring, playful. He had the best belly laugh I've ever heard.
Yeah. My dad was a very good person. He loved his kids a lot, and I think that he would be proud of this film that we're all doing in honor of him.
My father-in-law was a proud, hard-headed, funny, and caring man. He was a good father and a pleasure to be around. I found myself, at many times, looking to him for fatherly advice during the years I knew him after my papa passed away. He loved and cared for everyone close to him more than he did himself. He will always be missed and remembered.
My Uncle Dan was always there to listen to me, no matter what I had on my mind.